Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to In the Spotlight with Jill Nicolini on Business Talk Radio, where we take your business to the next level. Welcome back to Business Talk Radio. We are now joined by attorney-at-law Mitchell A. Greebel, and he's partner in Greebel & Greebel. It looks like here in Mineola, New York. They're a full-service law firm, and again, founded in 1988, and they provided individualized legal representation for over 20 years. Welcome to the show, Mitchell.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate it.
Well, please say hello to your listeners. Give us a little introduction as to who you are.
Sure, certainly. Good morning to everybody who is listening at this time. My name is Mitchell A. Greebel. I am an attorney and have been since 1984. I'm in practice with my father. God bless him. He still is working, and he's going to be 90 this year.
Oh, my goodness. Wonderful.
Yep. So I worked for him at a law school, and then in 1988, he and I formed our own partnership, and we've been in partnership since that time. And somewhere along the way, although I started my career as a legal in the corporate world, many of our corporate clients started to go through divorces, and unfortunately, they asked me in certain situations to sit second chair and to participate and to follow the case. And ultimately, I woke up one morning and found out that I was a matrimonial attorney. So that's kind of how I got to where we are now.
Wow. So I'm on your website. I want to point everyone out to do the same, please. Greebel.com. That's Greebel, Greebel.com. And it looks like here your areas of practice include matrimonial, family law, commercial litigation, real estate, estate planning, general business practices. My goodness, you do so much. So let me ask you one quick question. Was your father a mentor to you? Because obviously he's been in the field. Did you grow up around him saying, I want to be an attorney like my dad?
As a matter of fact, no, I did not. And my dad never pushed me ever to become an attorney. The day I said to him that I was going to take the LSATs to become an attorney, I'm sure he was rather pleased and proud, but it was never the long game for him, a 21-year long game to get me to become an attorney. It really organically happened for me, and it just seemed like the correct career choice for me. Unlike my dad has a very pristine practice. I'm a litigator. My dad is a corporate practitioner.
Got it. All right, good to know. Well, let's talk a little bit about some areas of aspects that you want to focus on for our listeners today. I have them in front of me. We're going to talk divorce and separation, then child support maintenance, and then custody. So let's get started with divorce and separation. And just a quick question off the top. With COVID, are you noticing a lot more clients coming in wanting to divorce? I hear domestic violence cases are on the rise. People have been home and trapped in their houses with their significant partners for so many times. So I'm assuming this type of business might be booming soon.
So it's interesting. Yeah, the short of an increase in activity, a significant number of individuals who have contacted my office for consultations, which I do offer to individuals. I do offer individuals a consultation, and so it has been rather hectic in the last 8 weeks. And my feelings are, as we come, God willing, more and more out of the COVID, and at some point return to more normalcy, I think we will even see more divorces occur. And as you said, we have higher incidents of domestic violence, whether it be directed at children or spouses. We've seen increases in suicide. We've seen increases in opioid use. We've seen an incredible amount of negative results of, and I would use unintended consequences of the lockdowns that have occurred around the country. So I think people have found out that then when they've been locked down with them, they may realize that they may not like the person they're married to as much as they thought they did. And now being required to spend 24/7 with them has put that under the spotlight for many people.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that aspect. But now let's move on to, again, divorce and separation. Talk a little bit about the process, the type of people who come to you, and what you can do to help.
Absolutely. So before we jump into divorce, separation, and the other topics that I want to discuss with you this week and going into the future, the first question that we have to ask really in terms of a divorce is whether or not there was actually a legal civil marriage in New York State. Religious marriages traditionally are not deemed civil marriages and treated accordingly. And unfortunately, there have been a rash of cases that have been decided in New York State which have treated religious marriages, whether they be Islamic or Jewish or Hindu. And somewhere along the way, the waters got muddied, and some of these religious marriages have been treated as civil. So it's muddied the water. But as a general rule, we really are concerned about whether someone was married civilly. Did they obtain a license? Was the marriage vows solemnized in accordance with our statute, the domestic relations law? And so the question is, why does it matter? It matters because marriage itself provides spouses with certain rights and venues to pursue those rights, which people who are not married are not afforded. So we could talk quickly about the courts that are involved. There are two courts in New York State that deal with family law issues and or domestic relations issues. There's the Supreme Court, which is if you were legally in the Supreme Court, where you would be entitled to both potentially child support and maintenance. Maintenance is what we call spousal support, if applicable. Now, we'll discuss those topics at a future date, but let's just put that aside and just acknowledge that those are remedies available to a married person in a divorce in Supreme Court. In a Supreme Court case, a spouse would also be entitled to what's called equitable distribution, which is the division of marital assets. The word is equitable. It's not equal. Depending on the nature of the asset will determine very often how that asset is divided. But if it was accumulated during the marriage, both parties are going to share in it. In addition to which, a married person would be entitled to, in addition to child support, add-on expenses such as educational expenses. I'm not talking about college or necessarily private school, but I'm talking about generally tutors or assistances so your children get what they need while they're in school. Child care expenses, if the spouse who is the custodial parent, the one who's home with the children, still has to go to work, then the non-custodial parent, in addition to paying child support, will have to pay very often his or her pro rata share of the child care expenses. And then there's the out-of-pocket medical expenses, which also can result in the court directing that a party share in the actual cost of the insurance. And you would also be entitled to orders of protection if, God forbid, you need those in the Supreme Court. And in the end, in the Supreme Court, you would be entitled to a divorce. In the family court, and you'd be permitted to go there because it has concurrent jurisdiction to the family court. And similar to the Supreme Court, there's at least one location in every county in the state. A married person as well as a non-married person who have children together would also be entitled to child support and maintenance and all the other aspects that I shared with you. However, if you are a non-married person, you would be entitled to child care expenses, educational expenses, out-of-pocket medical expenses, and you would be entitled to child support. And the family court can also make an award of custody to the children. And you would also be arguably entitled to an order of protection. However, in a family court, neither the equitable distribution of marital assets or a divorce can be awarded. So it is a far more limited place to go. It is why when we are representing people who are married, we may on occasion find a need to be in family court, whether it be because your client filed something before they retain you, or during the course of the action, your client went and got an order of protection in family court. But that court can't end that marriage. So ultimately, we always end up back in the Supreme Court. So that's kind of a synopsis from 20,000 feet looking down of what really, how we get to the next step. The next issue is really if someone wants to commence a divorce action in New York State, the question is whether or not they actually have met the residency requirements in New York State. So there are a few ways to meet that residency requirement here. Either you or your spouse have been living in New York State for 2 years continuously before the divorce action was started. Either you or your spouse have been living in New York State for at least one married couple, or your grounds arose in New York State. And lastly, both you and your spouse are residents of the state on the day the divorce is started, and the grounds for your divorce happened in New York State. Now, these are significant because we have had situations where people have recently moved to New York from another state, and they unfortunately have not met the requirements, and therefore may have to run to family court to get some sort of temporary support, may have to run to family court to get an order of protection. But until they've reached that threshold time span, they are not going to be permitted to maintain an action in the Supreme Court for a divorce. And then the last part about that is the grounds for the divorce. People find this incredible, but in 1967, the only ground for divorce in New York State was adultery. So if you're old enough to remember the movies I saw when I was a kid, where a private eye would be hired to kick a door in to take pictures of a spouse and their paramour in bed together, it was because of the fact that to prove adultery, you had to prove that the act actually occurred. So you would have people literally kicking in doors. 1967, I think New York State became evolved enough to realize there were other grounds for divorce, and they added grounds. And in 2010, which was to some extent a landmark change here in New York State, we adopted what traditionally or commonly is referred to as a no-fault divorce. So the grounds for the divorce in New York, which is what we used historically before 2010, was an abandonment or a constructive abandonment. And that was the argument that someone had abandoned the other spouse for at least 1 year. The constructive abandonment became a creative way to deal with that situation when the people still living together, but the parties had stopped having marital relations for at least a year, and therefore the nomenclature constructive abandonment was created. The other popular one we used back in the day was cruel and inhuman treatment. The problem with it, and I think the court recognized that and our legislature recognized that, is that to allege cruel and inhuman, you had to be very specific and often very vicious in describing your spouse, which obviously if the end game is to try to move forward, especially if you have children, sometimes that hurtful sharing of information, especially if it was true. If it wasn't true, that's a separate story. But if it was true, we used to set up a situation where it would be often difficult to get people to focus on settling the case because they were still angry about the allegations the other spouse had asserted. The other grounds that we had was imprisonment, and that is if, God forbid, one of your spouses was in jail. Adultery still remains on our, believe it or not, adultery still remains on our books as a ground for divorce, but it is a criminal offense. It is still, I think, under Penal Code 130, it is still listed as a criminal offense. So as a general rule, we tried our best not to get involved with that because of the possible consequences, though I will tell you in the years I practiced before we adopted no fault, I don't know of anyone who was arrested for committing adultery during a divorce case. But it was problematic because your client would ultimately be, in some regards, admitting to committing adultery and therefore admitting they committed a crime. So that one was never a popular method to achieve the end game. Though I will tell you, depending on how vicious people were, there were times when people came into my office who were so angry at their spouse for their extramarital indiscretions. They wanted not only the name of the paramour, they wanted the name of every person they believed their spouse was sleeping with. And so those pleadings and those court papers would often get extremely ugly, and that was before we even got into the meat of the potatoes. So it really became counterproductive. And then there's two other ways to get a divorce in New York. You could enter into a separation agreement, and that is where you have, in essence, divided and settled your entire divorce action, except you have put off the fact that you are going to get divorced for a year or more. And provided you have acted under the valid separation agreement and that you have followed all of the terms, either party would have the right after that 1 year to convert that separation agreement into a divorce. Similarly, if there was a judgment of separation, and I will tell you, it's another one of those rarities in all the years I've been practicing, I've not seen a judgment of separation. I'm kind of confused as to why someone would go through the expense of a judgment of separation when a separation agreement effectively becomes a legal separation. But even in that situation, after a judgment of separation was granted, within a year afterwards, a person could then move for a divorce. So that's really the background to get to where we are.
Great. And at this time of the show, we will take our commercial break. So, Mitchell, please give our listeners the best form of contact for you: website, phone number, email address, or all the above.
Absolutely. My name is Mitchell A. Greebel, Greebel. My office number is 516-248-7008. My website, as Jill shared with you, is greebel.com. And on Facebook, there's also Greebel. You are more than free to visit either my Facebook page and follow me or come onto my webpage to get more information. But that number is available. It's I check my messages all the time, so if I'm not in the office, I will follow up. So that's what you got. Thank you, Joe.
Great. Thank you so much. Stand by, everyone. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Do you want better health with natural solutions that work? East Wind Acupuncture, a 20-year traditional Chinese medicine clinic in Chesterton, Indiana, does just that. Offering acupuncture, herbs, massage therapy, and nutritional support, East Wind has helped thousands of people eliminate symptoms and regain health. They offer a comprehensive health review, Chinese medical exam including tongue and pulse diagnosis, and customized treatments designed for optimum results. They also offer educational programs, lifestyle classes, and workshops. For more information or to schedule your free health consultation, visit the website ewacupuncture.com or call 219-395-9928. East Wind Acupuncture, restoring health naturally.
Hey road cyclist, do you want a real adventure? How about a week-long vacation in Tuscany or Lake Como, Italy? Cyclobella Italia tours are so much more than just great cycling. Come and enjoy not only cycling, but all the best in food, sightseeing, and La Dolce Vita in Italy. Go to the website, psychobellaitalia.com, to register for the Psychobella Italia newsletter, filled with interesting information about Italy and the tours. Visit the website to view the photo gallery of prior tours and learn more about the fantastic cycling experience with Psychobella Italia. Email joe@psychobellaitalia.com or phone 480-353-6660. Psychobella Italia. Ride, eat, drink, live. Gittins Quick Sale Realty, the realty company that has a winning track record for getting their customers the properties that best suits their personal and business needs. The company that doesn't put the squeeze on your budget. They specialize in the Queens, Brooklyn, Nassau, and Suffolk County areas. To become a winner, choose a winning team. Win a quick sale with Gittins Quick Sale Realty. Go to GittinsQuickSaleRealty.com. GittinsQuickSaleRealty.com. Call 718-454-9000. That's 718-454-9000. Get the quick sale with Gittins Quick Sale Realty.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to In the Spotlight with Jill Nicolini on Business Talk Radio, where we take your business to the next level.
Welcome back to Business Talk Radio. Mitchell A. Greebel joins us here from Mineola. He's an attorney. Greebel.com is his website, and we've been talking here today in regards to, of course, the services that he can help you with. Just curious, are you only licensed in the state of New York, and you work with people in the New York area as an attorney?
So I am both a member of the New York State and the New Jersey bar.
Oh, okay.
When I originally became an attorney, I did practice somewhat in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey has a law, though, that requires anyone who practices in New Jersey to maintain an office there. So at some point, it just became just not financially smart for me to be attempting to create an office there when I wasn't necessarily seeing that kind of business. So It's New York. My practice is primarily in the Nassau, Suffolk, Queens, Brooklyn. I do go into Manhattan. I do go to Westchester and Staten Island, but I'm a Nassau County attorney. I'm primarily Nassau, Suffolk County. But I don't say no. If the client calls me and I can accommodate them, then I'm available for them.
Got it. Great. Thank you. And let's continue the conversation. We've been discussing divorce and separation today. What else would you like to enlighten our listeners with?
So I think the last part of today's program, I'd like to talk about the process of picking the right attorney for you. There is no question that we have a very strong bar, domestic relations divorce bar here in Nassau County, as well as Suffolk County. And so we all know the law. We all know the same statutes. We all know the same case law. We all probably could tell you from the beginning of the case when we first take an intake where this case more likely will end up if it doesn't settle and it has to go to trial. And that's information that's obviously important to be imparted upon the client so they understand from the get-go the reality of their wish list. But the fact is that what separates us is, I believe, how we as individuals treat the individual who's sitting across the desk from us. I have tried to, since I became an attorney and certainly practicing primarily in the matrimonial area, of which 95% of my practice at this point is matrimonial law, is to try to be more than just the facilitator of a divorce, but to also try to understand the client who's sitting across from me and understand how they got to that place, and maybe try to talk to them about how they avoid ever coming to visit me again. My parting gesture to every matrimonial client is, and I say this with love and affection, is that I hope I never see them again, because that is really the job of a divorce attorney, to get their client to the finish line. Hopefully you've provided them with an agreement that everyone can live with, and at some point maybe the parties will even begin to like each other again and understand they have a child or children in common. So that is really a major focus for me. I'll give you a war story just to give some weight to that message I'm trying to share. I had a client who came in to me a number of years ago, and she was obviously distraught, very, very upset, having a difficult time accepting the fact that her husband wanted to end what was then a 35-year marriage. And I saw her literally having a breakdown in front of me. It's one of the things about being a divorce attorney. We also are psychologists, social workers, any number of other professions, because our clients bring us all of those questions and problems that they're experiencing while they're going through the divorce. So that client, clearly, I was not going to be able to help this client until she got the help she needed. And so I convinced her, actually got on the phone with her daughter, and I convinced her to at least have herself checked out mentally. And I did not hear from her for 6 months. And when she came back to me, she acknowledged she actually was 90 days institutionalized. And the last 3 months, she was putting her life back together. And she was not the person I met the first time. She was actually a bull in a china closet. Her true personality was a dynamo. It also explained to me why her marriage probably didn't last, because she really was a very difficult, hard person, which I could not have seen when she was mentally unstable. But she got it together. We settled that case in about 6 months, and literally to this day, I get once or twice a year, I get a card from her or an email from her, and it says, "Thank you for helping me start over." And I know she's not talking about the divorce. I know she's talking about the fact that I recognize the fact that she had a serious mental issue going on, and that as an attorney, I was never going to be able to fix that. And the court system, people like to believe the courts want to hear your story. People want to believe that the judges want to hear what you have to say. But every judge has a multitude of cases and a multitude of people they're dealing with. The people who care, who have to care about what their client is saying, is the attorney who's advocating for them. As long as that person understands the end game, the wish list, where that party wants to end up, that party is going to be represented to the end the best they can. And I believe that I have built my practice based on that. I will tell you that it is not uncommon in the matrimonial world for clients to become dissatisfied with their attorneys and leave them. It's almost commonplace. And in 36 years of doing this, I've had less than 10 clients ever leave me. And of the 10 that left me, 2 of them ended up coming back, and I ended up finishing their divorces as well. So my goal is to build a relationship that transcends the divorce, because, again, we all can do that. I can give you the names of all the other men and women out there who are equally qualified to tell you the law, to tell you the facts, to tell you the law, tell you the case, how the cases hold, how the courts hold, how even particular judges may rule in given situations. We all know that. We're all in front of the same. We all play in the same sandbox. I believe what I bring to the table is an understanding of the client and understanding their needs. And the goal is always to keep it realistic, to keep them focused. And it's easier said than done often. I've had more than one client whose wish list wasn't possible. If she had the ability to have the gavel in her hand, she could not have gotten what she asked for, because it just was so unrealistic. So keeping your client realistic is important. And you know, the two questions every client asks is at every intake is, how much is this ultimately going to cost me, and how long is this going to take? And I preface my answer by saying, I am reasonable, and I ask, are you reasonable? When they answer, because everyone says they are reasonable, of course, when they answer they are reasonable, the follow-up question is your spouse and his or her attorney going to be reasonable? And their answer is, I don't know. Or often, no, my spouse is absolutely not going to be reasonable. To which my follow-up and final answer to the first question is that I don't know how long it's going to take you, and I don't know how much it's going to cost you. Just keep in mind what you're paying, your spouse is paying. So unless they're looking to spend money for no reason, we hopefully can keep focus and get us to where we go. As I said, fortunately, for the most part, the Nassau County, the Suffolk County bars, the attorneys are qualified. They know what they're doing, and I believe I have a fantastic relationship with, if not all, the vast majority of the attorneys I come into contact with. So that's really how you get to, that's part of the process, so to speak, in terms of getting to the finish line, because it's got to be organic. You've got to trust the person you're in the foxhole with. And that only comes with building that relationship during the representation. And I believe I've been successful at doing that. That's really the end on that issue.
Yes, and let's mention Mitchell Greebel. We're talking to here. His best form of contact is Greebel.com, Greebel, Greebel. And do you want to throw out a number here before we say goodbye?
Absolutely. My office number is 516-248-7008. If I could be of any assistance, please give me a call.
Great.
Thank you, Jill. Speak to you
Thank
next
you
week.
so much. We appreciate it. And everyone else, stay tuned. More Business Talk Radio is on the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to In the Spotlight with Jill Nicolini on Business Talk Radio, where we take your business to the next level.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council. Council.